the reason I started to make these little... damn, it starts to rain again. And I wanted to cut the grass. Desperately needed to cut some grass. Never mind. Huh? What can you do? Nature. Anyways, I started this diary about our lives. Nowhere else than on X, on Twitter. Can you see this interaction like in real time? In real time. As much as possible. And if you follow several train of thoughts, of opinions and political directions and conflicts, etc., like most of us do, I suppose, then only on Twitter, like really, only on Twitter, you can like put it all, like I do, on a video diary. A lot of stuff that I didn't public post, a lot of stuff, but I make a screenshot basically from our time like this on video. Going through, now I do it very fast, but going through the reports of that day, giving my thoughts about it. Well, I am the only one in all of the Netherlands who calls out for the things that I'm calling out for. A republic, a complete overhaul of our current political systems. And there is a few very simple steps to it as well. Like really simple steps. It's true. The answer to all your shit out there, like really, the answer to all your shit out there, doesn't matter if it is about supporting genocides in Gaza or Nazism and fascism in the Ukraine, ISIS terrorism, whatever the fuck our problems in the moment are, they all disappear the second we take 2 steps, just 2 steps. Step 1, we copy-paste the Constitution of the USA. Based on that model, we will model the EU, this fake entity. We will remodel it into a republic with a armed population, just like the enlightened founding fathers of America were, with an armed population organized in militias, so they can always make sure that they never become an EU again. Who can make sure that their central bank will never be privately owned. That was the whole idea about the Constitution of America. Who can then, by being armed, ensure that they never have to fear a conqueror from abroad, because after all, if we make them part of the defense force, just like in Switzerland, you will never have to fear an invasion of the Russians. Never ever. You will have a huge army in Europe, but you will also be guaranteed against the Borrells and von der Leyens and the traitors in your own countries like Scholz and Rutte and Macron and all those traitors. You would also be guaranteed against those, just like the founding fathers envisioned. So that brings me to that second step. The first step is the first one that guarantees your liberty, freedom, your democracy, your safety, etc. The second step is just as important. Now, a central bank. With all the gold, after all, we are already in bed with each other everywhere in Europe, in the EU, right? And breaking it up, that household that is forced upon us, breaking it up in a not so smart way will hurt us all, like a nasty divorce. So my suggestion is to have a sit down as family and agree that we take care of our central bank. Not in the hands of foreign entities, not in the hands of private entities, in our hands, the European hands, just like the founding fathers of America warned the future Americans that they would lose their sovereignty, their freedom, their liberty if they ever allow a central bank owned by foreign interests. Andrew Jackson fought bitterly against them. I will root you out, you den of vipers. Well, I like to compare myself with a guy like that, Andrew Jackson, who was not afraid to speak out in a world, yes, where they also assassinate you, like they try with Mr. Fico, like they did with Pim Fortuyn in the Netherlands. Heck, his killer got rewarded. He kept his mouth shut for a few years, was after that given a big bag of money to live happily ever after, and has even protection in the Netherlands while living in some cozy country house near Apeldoorn. So there you go. That's the Netherlands for you. And one of the reasons I make this whole diary is to see how the EU fails, how the Netherlands fail, how Germany fails, and how inevitably there will come a time when, maybe not a copy-paste of the Constitution of America, but there will come a time when patriots in all these countries in Europe, like me, say enough is enough. Enough is enough. And we will indeed, like it is allowed by UN Charter, overthrow our governments in revolutions, yes, to establish republics instead of this monstrosity that apparently so many people cheer for. Well, that monstrosity unmasks itself in its support to Zionists and genocide in Gaza. It unmasks itself in its support to Nazism and fascism in the Ukraine. No one can ever dispute this anymore. At the start of the SMO, okay, we could still discuss, between brackets for you dumb sheep out there, discuss a little bit, okay, let me try to give you some evidence, mainstream media evidence, the years before the Maidan coup, and during the Maidan coup. But hey, no, deaf, blind and dumb. If your government supports Nazism, fascism with weapons, money and training terrorists, ISIS, etc., who do you think they are? Who do you think they are? Benevolent? That means by their own actions you can see they are Nazis, fascists, Zionists, terrorists. You are, even by our own laws in Europe. It's against the anti-terrorist laws in Europe to support terrorists with money, weapons and training. It's clearly there in our laws. Yet here we are accepting that your so-called elected leader or leader oh my god, I better not say it. Your so-called elected leader is supporting that, those evil things like Nazism, fascism, terrorism, Zionism, with weapons, money and training. That's against our laws, our very own laws. There is no shades of grey. If I do it on this level, on state level, it's okay. Well, guess what? That means that your state, if you accept that, if you can accept that, that means that you accept that your state is a Nazi, fascist, Zionist, terrorist regime. There is no shades of grey, Europe. I keep telling you. And hence I will keep making a diary about it. Because what else can I conclude than you guys are just as misguided as my German country, my country of birth was during World War II, to the years of World War II. You are just as misguided. You do not see. You do not see where these so-called leaders will lead you to. Well, you had an example, but it's forbidden to speak about the true history, right? It's forbidden to question the narrative about it. It's forbidden to state public what the newspapers in the 1930s were publicly stating. But to repeat it now could end you up in prison by repeating history. I always say it's the beauty of these old microchips, you know, on which they recorded so many of these old newspapers. You cannot fake them. It's raw, unedited footage. You cannot fake them. And when you then read statements years ahead of World War II about certain congresses that took place in the Netherlands, in Den Haag in specific, and in Amsterdam, in which some people announced war even before, hey, come on, even 7, 8 years before World War II started. They announced the war on Germans. For fuck's sake. And back then, in that very same newspapers, it was already reported, and that's an amazing number, how many of those people had already died brutally, savagely on the hands of Germans. You would be staggered about that amount that they already reported in the 30s in a newspaper. Amazing. We have to, discuss these kind of things, because when you add those victims up to the victims in the Second World War of this atrocity, then, whoa, my country of birth, Germany, has even a greater guilt. Well, that would even make me speak out harder. This never again, right? So yeah, I dare to say I'm on the right side of history. I am. And I dare to say that by recording this, I prove for prosperity, for the future generations, that I'm on the right side of history and that I record it. Live. Real time. And I report it back on X, I started back then a account, Silvio Jensen Reporting, a verified account paid for in advance for a whole fucking year, yeah, to be able to make longer videos on X. After all, it was announced that you could make podcasts, etc. on X, and I wanted to do this about the very same topic, a Republic of Europe, in which people then could, in a direct contact on X, in which people then could give their opinion against mine. I succeeded, I recorded it. Unfortunately, at some point X took out that account. So much free speech on X. They took out that account for talking about the very same things I'm talking about now, and still will be talking about, until we finally have a 3% of the mass in Europe to change the direction of Europe, just like in America. It was only 3% of the population who stood up against the British and fought them. No taxation without representation. No tax on physical labor, that's slavery. Only tax on commerce, etc. Only 3%, my dear fellow Europeans, is needed. 3%. And I dare to say, among those conservatives, there will be 3% in Europe who will finally realize that we can only be safe if we rely on ourselves again, with our own central bank, gold-backed, joining the BRICS, kicking out the USA and its military bases, because that's the occupying forces, together with their private bankers in America, the deep state, don't forget this, instituting a republic everywhere in Europe, a la the example of the USA or the Russian Federation. Seems to work very well without xenophobia. Neither way. All those republics in the Russian Federation, well, I believe 130 or something they have. They don't know this kind of xenophobia that we have in Europe. So maybe that model is better. But regardless, it should be with an armed population. They should be part of the militia, every country a militia, and be part of the defense force. Not an offense force, defense force. And then you will never have to fear China, Russia, or anyone, because we would be friends. Have a nice day. I know, it's a really stupid idea I have. It's really stupid.